Well, you've done it again. You've come to the wrong place at the wrong time, and that must mean it's the wrong stuff. Guy Denton, how are you?
Why does the wrong place always feel so right, Matt? These are the big questions facing America today in this moment of crisis.
Indeed, indeed. Well, it is good to see you, my friend. And I want to start with something interesting, something weird that happened. My old boss, Tucker Carlson, is doing some sort of a tour, and there was a video of him interviewing Roseanne Barr that popped up.
You know they eat babies. That is not bullshit. It's true.
So it's not just the dogs and the cats, not just the pets.
It's not just the dogs and the cats. They're full-on vampires. And everybody still thinks I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. They're full-on vampires. They love the taste of human flesh and they drink human blood. They do. By the time we go in to vote for Trump, that he will open up everybody's eyes and they will stop pretending to be asleep. You know what they say, you can't wake people up that are pretending to be asleep, but I pray to God, please wake up even those who are pretending to be asleep with the irrefutable truth of what the worst people on this planet are really up to. They are really up to that. They're doing it. There are so many victims. There are so many victims.
So I know Tucker well enough to know that he's enjoying the insanity of this, but he thinks she's crazy. But do you think she was a comedian. She is a comedian. Is this shtick, or do you think she really believes this guy?
I mean, I most appreciated seeing Tucker's life flash before his eyes at the end of that clip. My favorite small moment there, I don't know if you noticed it, is right when I think the first edit happens, is when she's saying, "They do, Tucker," and it skips. I would love to see what Tucker's face looked like in that moment.
I want this full video. Obviously, there was some editing there, and again, I don't think it's unfair to show that because she said what she said, and it's hard to imagine. Like maybe there's a cutout part where she's like, of course I'm being, of course I'm making this up, Tucker. They're not really vampires. So I know Tucker thinks this is insane and performance art, but I wonder if Roseanne is doing shtick or if she is insane or on drugs. And by the way, let me just say, I think that one of the common denominators on the right now with some of the insanity is drugs. I really do. Hallucinogenics. In her case, it might be something different. Or maybe some mental issues as well. But it's a crazy, crazy thing. And remember, Tucker is this huge, I think he's got like the #1 podcast possibly right now. So for him to be quote unquote platforming these ideas is troubling.
I mean, well, if it's the latter, it's sad more than anything else, right? I mean, Roseanne, obviously I didn't grow up at a time. I grew up just after a time where Roseanne the show was a massive part of, I guess you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but this is what I'm led to assume, like a big part of Americana in a way, right? And a big part of American culture and the way a significant piece of middle American culture too.
Yeah.
And Roseanne, I think, justifiably became quite a wholesome cultural presence and cultural icon because of that, for good reason.
I don't know about wholesome guy. I mean, so when I was a kid, growing up in a sort of a Christian conservative family, my parents I watched it, but my parents didn't really want me watching it. It was pretty vulgar. They were Democrats. They were sort of like living in Michigan, kind of the kind of Democrats who now vote for Donald Trump. But they were Democrats, and I believe the first lesbian kiss ever on TV actually happened on Roseanne.
Why do all these homosexuals keep kissing Roseanne? That's the question on everyone's lips, but there was only one thing on Roseanne's lips in 1994, and that was Muriel Hemingway on one of the most controversial TV episodes of the decade. The sitcom Roseanne featured way more queer characters than other shows of the time. It was one of the gayest shows on television since the obscure 70s show Mary Hartman, which in an unlikely twist featured one of the homosexuals who would go on to kiss Roseanne. If it wasn't for Roseanne's multiple makeouts in the 90s, we might never have seen same-sex kisses on Dawson's Creek and Buffy and Glee and more, because TV executives in the 90s were convinced that a single gay kiss could destroy an entire network.
Roseanne was very proud of being progressive in that social progressive sense. So I don't know about wholesome, but it was a mainstream show. I mean, this was on network TV. It was a very big hit. She was super famous.
I mean, I think, is it performance art or is it just insanity? I think you could flip a coin, and either way, it ultimately doesn't make very much difference, because especially given Roseanne's track record of saying comparably insane things in recent years, and certainly since the first Trump election, either way, she's completely thrown away a lot of whatever goodwill and whatever mainstream reputation she had, and it's tragic more than anything else. And if it is just insanity, she badly needs help, and Tucker is at fault for exploiting her for his own benefit and for his own publicity and internet traction in that context. And if it is serious, then again, much like with many of the other risible displays we've discussed in recent weeks on the part of Mark Robinson and others, but it's a sad indictment not only of the current psychosis plaguing the GOP, but inarguably, I would say, the most famous Republican, perhaps the most famous Republican besides Donald Trump, not just the most famous Republican pundit in American life, is platforming all of this and giving it attention. But it's also an indictment of the fact that the GOP seems completely unconcerned with actually winning elections and actually appealing to ordinary people in a situation where all of the cards should be in its favor.
I interviewed a psychologist a couple years ago at a book out, and he made the argument that all the incentives today on social media and the internet are to actually promote people who have mental problems.
Those people with mental health issues are right now, they're at the top of the food chain in the social media world, because what gets the most traction with views and followers is the most performative, over the top, perhaps psychiatrically unwell behavior. So look at it, everyone from our influencers like Kanye West is having his recent meltdowns again, but even there's a whole subset of social media influencers that beyond the Kylie Jenners and the Kardashians that are now psychiatrically not well. And I write about this in the book, where you have really popular Tourette syndrome people and dissociative disorder folks, which we used to call multiple personality disorder, and folks with borderline personality disorder, because when they make their TikTok videos, they're essentially the most entertaining. And so it's almost like, I don't want to call it the freak show, but it's almost like that's the coin of the realm, is over the top behavior. So when in the past, those folks might have been, like you said, work at that table in the corner.
Right.
Now they're the ones who have the 2 billion views. So now they're at the top of the social media food chain. I think you make a really interesting observation about those kinds of folks who are drawn towards politics to begin with, because I know, in a real acute psychiatric illness, we always were taught that if someone was schizophrenic or had real acute mental illness, they usually used to see sort of their mental illness or their hallucinations or delusions through the prism of either religiosity or politics, the governmental, and I was taught that was because if you're hearing or seeing things and you have a level of narcissism where you're sort of the center of the universe, you're beginning to put things into the two interpretive frameworks that shape the world for us. And for most people, our political system and our religious systems are the two buckets that we can kind of see the world through. So if you're not well, you're going to be drawn towards religiosity or political spectrum type of worlds. And that kind of makes sense, that's kind of like the fire to the moth.
I think that explains a whole hell of a lot about the state of YouTube and podcasts and Twitter, social media, everything. It's a little crazy. Guy, to your point about politics, it is so weird. I mean, it's almost like if you wanted to try to lose elections, you might, say you hate Taylor Swift. You might attack childless cat ladies. You might support a candidate who calls himself a black Nazi. I mean, if you were trying to lose, you would do all of these things. And yet
Yes.
what's amazing is that, like, Donald Trump is still within shouting distance of winning the presidency. And how much of this is because, we've got this electoral college where you can lose the popular vote and still somehow win the presidency, versus how much of this is a sign that America is crazy and degenerate and and the American public gets what we deserve. Versus the last option I'll throw you is that the left had and the left and the media had so pissed away credibility that they've somehow opened it up that someone like Trump could get elected.
I think the third option is true to an extent, but I mean I don't necessarily agree with the second option. I don't think America is crazy. I don't think Americans are crazy. Certainly some fringes of Americans are and always have been crazy and have espoused ugly views. But I think the key takeaway of this election and the situation that we found ourselves in, I don't know if it's entirely fair to say we get what we deserve, because the majority of Americans are normal. The majority of Americans aren't happy with this situation. All of the polls are still at a knife edge. A lot of the recent polls that came out this week, in the battleground state, there was an interesting poll in the Times earlier in this week, in a lot of the Sunbelt states that puts Trump ahead. This election is still very much at a coin flip. And that shouldn't be the case, right? I think Kamala has absolutely improved. And, of course, like I'm sure you do, Matt, I want Kamala to win. I do not like Trump. I don't want Trump to be reelected. I think it would ultimately be better for the country if Kamala won, although I'm certainly not happy about it. I can't exactly endorse it. But I think, again, by the standard of what should be ordinary politics on both sides, right? A conventional Republican platform should be dominant in a political climate like this, right? If you look at what a lot of the most pressing issues are and what of the most exigent problems are, not just domestically, but internationally, a lot of the international threats we're facing, a lot of the international challenges that America and the free world are facing, domestic problems of rising crime, immigration system that a lot of people think is spiraling out of control, dysfunctional trade, inflation, supply chains, all of that sort of thing. A traditional kind of sensible conservative Republican platform espoused by sensible, non-crazy Republican candidates should be able to provide very compelling solutions for those people.
Should be, but I will say again, I'm playing devil's advocate right now, but I really feel like what Kamala, you might say I don't believe her, or I think she's going to govern from the left, all that. That's different. But in terms of the campaign she's actually running, she's got an ad out talking about, being tough on the border.
Kamala Harris has never backed down from a challenge. She put cartel members and drug traffickers behind bars, and she will secure our border. Here's her plan: hire thousands more border agents, enforce the law and step up technology, and stop fentanyl smuggling and human trafficking. We need a leader with a real plan to fix the border, and that's Kamala Harris.
Donald Trump has, sabotaged that border bill that Biden actually supported, along with some prominent Republicans, including James Lankford, who I guess co-authored it for Republicans. She's standing firm with Ukraine against Russia, something that Donald Trump refuses to do. So in a way, isn't this Republican platform that you're pining for? Isn't she actually, like, in a bizarre way, actually giving us a lot of what we would want from a Republican?
I mean, certainly more so than Trump and Vance and any of their cronies, yes. But I also think that, again, going back to simply the electability question, right? I think Kamala did win the debate. I agree with you that her campaign has definitely picked up, and she's done in terms of the aesthetics of the campaign, the approach she's taken to campaigning. She's gotten a lot of things right, and the proof of that is in the pudding to some degree. But at the same time, again, I think the debate certainly did not go well for Trump, but a lot of the interviews that Kamala has given in the last couple of weeks, I don't think have gone especially well for her either. I think she's still falling into the trap of giving largely airy responses to a lot of the important questions when they're put to her. I think she's been struggling to really articulate, even though on certain issues, I think you're right, overall, a well thought through, well-rounded policy platform, I think still to a lot of people seems to elude the Democratic Party. Again, I think polling, again, the proof of that is in polling.
Well, look, it does feel like she's lost momentum in a way, right? I mean, there was all this excitement around Biden getting out. Kamala sort of burst onto the scene, just stunned us with how good she was doing, had these rallies in swing states. She obviously picks Tim Walz. That makes a splash. She has, I think, a very good convention. Then it seems like she went a little bit dark. But, she must have been prepping, because she ended up giving an interview that went okay with CNN, and then I think had a very good debate. So maybe she has to do some debate prep. She can't be out there. But here's a theory I wanted to run past you because, in 2020, the theory was, Donald Trump wants the election to be about him. Joe Biden wants the election to be about him, about Trump, right? Trump wants it to be about Trump. Biden wants it to be about Trump. It, of course, was about Trump, and people were sick of Trump. He was the incumbent president. And so I think that in 2020, it actually worked for Joe Biden, that Trump was kind of overexposed. People were sick of him sucking up all the oxygen. But this time around, I think maybe there is a battle for the attention economy, who can dominate. And for a little while there, people forgot about Trump. Kamala was the rock star. Kamala and Tim Walz were getting attention, and they were exciting, and cable news was talking about them. And I think it's reverted back to mean. And some of it could actually be Donald Trump's crazy scandals. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. That may be a stupid thing to say, but it gets attention. It makes you the focus. It makes you the person everyone's talking about. And I guess there's an old saying in showbiz, which is that there's no such thing as bad publicity. I think Trump maybe subscribes to that. So this is a really long windup. But the question, I guess, is it a problem that Kamala is no longer kind of the exciting new thing?
No, that is a good point. I hadn't really considered that. I mean, I think the challenge for Kamala, right, is she really needs to strike a very careful balance between the attention being on Trump and the attention being on her. I do think it works in her favor if when the attention is on Trump and the attention is on Trump for Trump endorsing Mark Robinson and then the Mark Robinson scandal coming out, or for Trump, or for they're eating cats and dogs and then reporters go to Springfield and the cat is still alive living in a neighbor's basement, right? In that case, Trump looks insane. It's a reminder to people of why they voted Trump out of office in the first place and what they were so sick of.
Okay, but this theory being that you're thinking old school. You're thinking the old rules. The new rules are if they're talking about you, you're winning. If you're driving the conversation, if you're driving the debate, you're winning. You're the star. If that's the game, Trump, doesn't that explain Trump's success really simply? We're always talking about him.
I think what Harris really needs to do is focus on simply amplifying her own brand, but also building a firm foundation of substance to underpin it, and pairing that foundation of substance with the production values and the aesthetic and the patina that have brought her to this point, right?
That's tough, though, right? Trump gets to go out there. Trump gets to just wing it, and you want Kamala to be competent, knowledgeable, substantive, but also fun, and also sexy enough. Well, okay. I mean, when I use the term sexy, I mean that it's exciting enough to get attention, but also substantive. Like, she has to do everything, right, and dance backwards, in high heels at the same time. And Trump can just go. Just Trump being Trump. I mean, that's honestly, I'm not criticizing you. I think that's kind of actually what this race is, to be honest. I think that actually describes what she has to do. Okay, a couple questions for you. We're not doing as many clips this week, but I wanted to run a couple things by you to discuss. So we mentioned the vice presidential debate that's happening on Tuesday between Tim Walz and JD Vance. Both Midwesterners. I guess there's Tim Walz looks older, but in fact he is older, but maybe not as much as you might think. I think both are very smart guys. But I'm trying to put together a take on what needs to happen. What do you think? What are you looking for? What should we look for? And what does each person kind of need to do to advance their cause?
I don't think we're in for a terribly exciting debate, and I'm skeptical of the idea that the debate will end up having very much impact, even though it could. I think what's most likely going to happen is that each of them will try to portray the other as the most extreme caricature of themselves that they can, right? Trump will attempt to paint Walz as a liberal, as an insane far-left radical, and the Harris platform as an insane far-left radical platform masquerading as a moderate and centrist platform. And then by the same token, Walz will attempt to portray Vance and Trump as insane far-right radicals who are opposed to the very foundations of American constitutionalism and democracy and so on. I think the operative question really is, beyond all of that and beyond all of the bluster that's inevitably going to ensue, is once you look past all of that, right, Walz and Vance are both very effective and very composed and articulate speakers in their own way. And when they're on form, they both really can deliver and really can be quite powerful and compelling. The question really is, can Walz, both in terms of how he sounds and how he presents himself, can he lean into the whole everyman, good old boy, middle American aesthetic and use that coupled with putting forward a more sensible and clearly defined and rigorously argued policy platform to prove to a lot of the independent voters, a lot of the undecided voters, a lot of the voters who are still suspicious of the Harris campaign, but really the Harris campaign does have something serious and well thought through and genuine to offer. I think if he does that, he wins. But by the same token,
I think there's a chance. Now, the odds are you're right that it's sort of boring, but I think there is a chance that Walz comes down with some sort of just takedown of Vance, because Walz is. Do you remember those TV interviews he gave that kind of got him on the short list, that got him selected as Kamala's running mate?
Look what they're talking about. They went right to division. They did not give us a plan on health care. Donald Trump talked about infrastructure. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris built bridges, built roads. So I think this is going back to the bread and butter, getting away from this division. We do not like what has happened where we can't even go to Thanksgiving dinner with our uncle because you end up in some weird fight that is unnecessary. and I think bringing back people together, well, it's true. These guys are just weird. And it's, you know, they're running for He-Man Women Haters Club or something. That's what they go at. That's not what people are interested in. And there is angst because robber barons like JD Vance and Donald Trump gutted the Midwest, told us we didn't do that.
I mean, he can be very witty, very quick-witted, and he has this sort of irascibility to him. So I think there's a chance for I knew Jack Kennedy, you're no Jack Kennedy type moment where, you know, it would be kind of devastating to Vance. Now remember, when Lloyd Benson said to took Dan Quayle down, it didn't matter in the sense that George H.W. Bush still won. I don't think that debate impacted the presidency or the presidential race. What I think it did was contribute to Dan Quayle becoming a figure of mockery in the Republican Party. And that, I think, is a danger for JD Vance.
No, that's certainly true, and it certainly could be the case. And Walz does have that very pugnacious, pugilistic side to him that can surface in unexpected moments, right? I mean, even in his address at the convention, it was fiery, it was punchy, it was thoughtful, and there was substance to it. But but there was spice to it too. He has a
killer instinct, I think, that you have to do this. So I think that if Vance has a vulnerability or leaves himself open, I think there's a chance that Walz could twist the knife.
And I don't think, Vance may understand that. I think Vance more than others. I mean, obviously we've spoken a bit about this at length. I do not agree with JD Vance about a whole host of things, but Vance is no dum-dum, right? Vance is intelligent.
The way you say dum-dum sounds just like Kazoo on the Flintstones. Have you ever seen this? Do you know what I'm talking about?
That dum-dum is where I have to draw the line.
Vaguely, yes. I think
dum-dum. Anyway, sorry. That's for my Gen Xers and older out there.
That's for the highlight reel.
Can you say it one more time? Say
dum dum.
Okay. Say like, good job, dum dum.
Good job, dum dum.
Sorry.
That's the quality content we exist to provide to this country, Matt.
All right. We've got more to say, but let's just hold off. It's Friday. You know what that means? It means that it's cold gen time again.
I wish that we could just say, let's hold off on this whole election. It's Friday. Let's just forget about it and do it again.
Well, I do. I mean, I have a question. You think about this, and maybe we'll hit this next week. But I want to ask you, if Donald Trump does lose, do you think he goes away? What happens? Does he actually go away? So let's think about that. We can mull on that. because I think he said he was in an interview recently and he said he doesn't think he would run again. But it turns out he said that every time, and we know how that all went. But Guy, before I let you go, any weird Kiss stuff going on? Have you been to any cruises or anything?
Sadly, no, nothing like that right now. I mean, Kiss purportedly is over, Matt. It's done.
No.
There won't be any more, allegedly, right? There won't be any more cruises. There won't be any more concerts. Much like with Donald Trump saying he won't run again, do I believe that?
No.
Absolutely not. But for the time being, they at least have to present an artifice of sticking with it. So we'll see.
I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing that just like Donald Trump is close or was close personal friends with Epstein and P. Diddy and Mark Robinson, that he is probably very tight with Gene Simmons, I'm guessing.
I don't know.
Gene Simmons on The Apprentice ever?
I was just thinking that. I want to say that he was, but I'm actually not sure. I know Gene Simmons was pro Romney. I don't know, and he may have been pro Trump because of the stance that Trump took on Israel and what Trump did with moving the embassy to Jerusalem and so on. But now I'm not sure. I wonder.
Well, I don't want to accuse Simmons of that, but if I had to bet, I would bet that he is.
Maybe we could get him on this show, Matt. Who knows? Anything could happen.
I was holding out for Ace Frehley, but I would accept Gene Simmons as a fallback safety Kiss member if needed.
That'll be a whole different. If Ace did it, that would be a very different kind of podcast based on my conversation with him.
That's right. You interviewed him for The Dispatch, right?
I did, yes, which people can read right now at thedispatch.com if they don't want to think about the election. Thankfully, I'm sure the majority of people listening to this probably do not anymore, so it might be a welcome respite.
Awesome, my friend. Well, you know our deal with the audience here. You drive us wild, we drive you crazy, and we'll keep on doing that. We'll see you back here the wrong place at the wrong time and the wrong stuff next week.
That, dum-dum, is where I have to draw the line.
If you like what you heard here today, please make sure to follow the show, subscribe to the show, leave a like, review the show wherever you get your podcast, and also please smash that like button, or whatever the people my age are saying. I don't know. I am a Kiss fan after all. But nonetheless, you can also follow us on X at WrongStuffPod, or drop us a note, thorning praise or scornful disdain. We accept both at the Wrong Stuff Pod, all one word, at gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening. We're looking forward to next time.